Welcome to the Starzology Astrology Podcast. I'm your host, Alison Price, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Arwynne O'Neill.
Hi, Alison. It's great to be here again.
Thank you so much for joining me once more. Now, in this episode, we're going to be doing a listener's chart.
Yeah.
This is someone who has filled in the form for the online chart interpretation, which we get to when we can. These are generally anonymous, and because we let them use an alias, or as we're calling it, a star's name, they can give a name. And although we're going to be showing the chart and so on, you won't know whose chart this is.
Right.
So it's actually one of our listeners who felt that they wanted to have their chart done, which is great.
Yeah.
And before we start, I just want to give the chart details so that if anybody wants to cast this chart and follow along, you can do that. So she was born at 3:31 p.m. on September the 26th, 1982, in Winnipeg, Canada.
Yeah.
So this returns an ascendant of 4 degrees Capricorn, just so you know you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through a few of the features that I would look at when gathering the information to do a chart reading, and then we'll dig into it a little further.
Sounds great.
All right. So the first thing I always look at are the chart balances, with the polarity is the very first thing, and they are in balance. So active and passive are in balance for her. The elements also are in balance, so there's nothing outstanding within the elements.
All right. And
then we get to the modes. Now, in the modes, cardinal mode is strong.
Ah, interesting.
So that's standing head and shoulders above the other two. And then when we look at the hemispheres, for her, the southern hemisphere is strong with 6 planets. So that's really quite something.
Yeah.
And because of that, we then have the third quadrant is strong with 4 planets. And then the third triple division is also strong with 4 planets. So there is that emphasis there with most of the planets are on one side of the chart. And you can see that quite clearly when you look at the chart.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've noted that. And I've put the actual chart image. It's on the blog post. There's a link below the podcast. You can go through and check that out and see what I'm talking about there. The next step we go to is the Ascendant complex, because we're just trying to pull some basic information together. So, of course, the Ascendant is Capricorn, and I've got 4 degrees 39 Capricorn, so it's nicely in the early degrees of Capricorn, which is always a good thing.
For sure.
So her first house, we're looking now at the planets and points, and so the first house has the South Node and the Moon. So they're both in the first house. And then the ascendant aspects, which are neutral ones, we've got the ascendant is actually conjoined the South Node. The ascendant is quintile Saturn and biquintile Chiron. I'm mentioning them in passing, but we're not necessarily going to dig into that. And then we've got a soft aspect here. The ascendant is actually sextile the midheaven. So that's quite interesting. You get this at these higher northern latitudes.
Yeah.
And then the hard aspect is the ascendant is squaring the sun, and it's opposing the North Node. Yeah. So pretty straightforward there for the Ascendant complex. Next, I move on to the chart ruler complex. And here, the chart ruler is Saturn, because Capricorn is on the Ascendant. And Saturn is in Libra, which means it's in exaltation, well placed. So Saturn actually gets a score of +4. And actually moving ahead of myself, this makes Saturn the L mutant within the chart. So it's the strongest planet. So Saturn's in the 9th house, and Saturn rules the northern hemisphere, the first quadrant, the first triple division, and the first and second houses. So it's got quite a lot of influence within the chart.
Yeah.
It makes it stronger as well. So it does have some major aspects. So the neutral aspects is Saturn is conjoined Pluto. Now we'll circle back around to this because of her question there. Mm-hmm. Saturn's also conjoined Mercury, which is retrograde, and it's quintile the ascendant and biquintile Chiron. Okay, so Saturn's aspects, the hard ones is it's square the moon, opposite the part of fortune, and opposition Eris. And it's sextile Neptune, which is pretty kind of a nice thing to have. Mm-hmm. So I have also shown the aspectarian there for this chart, because there's this grand trine, which we're going to get to in a moment, and I have circled those actual aspects so you can see them on the aspectarian. The next thing up is the Sun complex. Now, the Sun is in Libra. Not particularly well placed, so it's in its fall. It's getting a score of -4. I mean, this is just one more thing about why Saturn's so strong.
Yeah.
The Sun is in the 8th house, and the Sun only rules the 8th house. So the Sun's soft aspects are it's trine Chiron, sextile Mars, sextile Uranus, and the Sun only has soft aspects to it, so no challenging aspects. So in a way, that is nice for the Sun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when we get to the moon complex, it's actually a lot more meaty. So the moon is in Capricorn, which is its detriment. So again, it's going to get a score of -5. The moon is, although it is well placed in the first house. So it's got position, if not essential dignity. And the moon is then ruling the southern hemisphere, the third quadrant, and the seventh house. So it's got hard aspects, square Mercury, square Saturn, square Pluto, square the part of fortune, square Eris. So it's quite well engaged. And then on the soft aspect side, the moon is trining Venus, trining Chiron, and quintile the midheaven. So the moon has quite a lot of aspects, more than the sun does.
Yeah.
So of the two luminaries, I think the moon is more prominent, particularly for this chart. And it's part of this grand trine between the moon, Venus, and Chiron in Earth.
Yeah.
So that has a lot to say about this chart.
Yeah. So what she has asked us is, and I love this question, will I succeed in building a profitable business empire? I love the word empire there. That is so Libra Capricorn. It's amazing.
Profitable business empire.
Empire, yeah.
Can you hear the Capricorn?
This isn't just, am I going to do okay? Am I going to make enough to survive? This is, I want a business empire. God damn it. Which is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, so that was the only question from this listener.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything about, tell me about my love life, or tell me what's going to happen next week.
No,
or blah, blah, blah.
that. No,
this is a specific, specific question.
Yeah.
And you see it in the chart, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, as soon as you look at a chart as an experienced astrologist, that we know what the answer is, but we'll pussyfoot round it to start
let's
with.
do that. Let's build suspense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because she's asked the question about, will I succeed in building a profitable business empire, we're going to look at the midheaven.
Yeah.
So because of that, I have actually pulled out the midheaven complex as well, just so we can now zoom in on exactly what it is.
Yeah.
The main reason I did that is her question was a focus on what she will do in the world.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at this midheaven. Let's just unpick that in a little more detail than what we've just spoken about.
Yeah.
So her midheaven sign is Scorpio.
Yeah. Nice.
Now you can talk a lot about Scorpio, right?
I do like a Scorpio.
Yes.
I've got Scorpio rising. My partner is a Scorpio.
Arwynne gets Scorpio, and it's really, I'll kill for you or I'll kill you. It's one of the two. Yeah, yes.
Kill or die, but preferably kill. Yeah.
So it's quite a powerful placement on the midheaven.
Yeah, with Jupiter conjuncted, by the way.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
So the midheaven ruler then, midheaven rulers are Mars and Pluto.
Yeah.
So we would then look at those in a moment, which we will. And then we want to know about any planets in the 10th house. Lori, the greater benefic, Jupiter is in the 10th house.
Yes.
It's in Scorpio, and it's actually conjoined the midheaven.
Yeah.
It's in the midheaven Gorkilin sector.
Yeah.
And it's the most elevated planet.
Yes.
And Jupiter is the planet of great expectations, great things, possibilities, luck. I don't want to say fortune. Good things come your way. It's the best.
It expands everything it touches. That's what I like to think about Jupiter.
Exactly. And it's well placed for business. Yeah. And we're not saying quite world domination. She hasn't quite used those words.
Business empire.
Yes. Yeah. An empire is a Jupiter thing.
Yeah, big time.
So this is quite a thing there. There are other aspects to the midheaven. So we've got Jupiter conjoined. We've got the moon is quintile, which we did speak about softly earlier. And if we recall, we felt that the moon was better placed as the luminary than the sun is because it's first house as well.
Yeah.
And then the midheaven also has some rather nice ones. It's got a trine to the north node.
Yeah.
And a sextile to the south node, which isn't always the case. And then it's sextile the ascendant. Mm-hmm. So this is bringing, with that sextile to the ascendant, is bringing this business of who she is and what she wants to do. It's got a sextile. So it's a focused, I want to call it a focused burn in her life, that she's not pulling down one way because of personal things and career things are one way. She's actually, her whole life is together with that sextile and there's this focus.
Yeah, and it's nice because that to me, it says it's not about just riding the coattails of some other business that you suddenly cash in on. This is all about you. It is all about what you are driving and your personality and your
bootstrapping.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the success. It's not that you'll just luck into working for the right person. No, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. We've got Capricorn, strong.
Yeah.
Which, let's face it, it's a business. It's an empire building sign.
Yeah.
And we have Scorpio, which is that killer instinct that is required, I think, to get these things done.
Yeah, totally.
So that's a very interesting combination. And honestly, when I saw her chart and I saw the question, I mean, immediately I thought, well, yes, the answer is yes, you will succeed.
Amazing.
And I'm thinking also, too, that I wouldn't want to stand in her way.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Note to the wise there.
Yeah.
There's a definite focus. There's a definite plan.
Yeah.
This is not something that she came up with on a whim. And I don't know who she is or where she works or what she's doing at the moment.
Yeah.
But definitely she is going to be able to make the mark on the world that she wants to through her own efforts.
Yeah. Nice.
Now, the fact that it's trying the North Node brings us to this happenstance to say destiny. Ease of destiny. And it's North Node. So that is really always quite a nice thing to have. It's a subtle underpinning to that midheaven, I think.
Yeah.
But it's almost to say, well, she's destined to do this.
Nice.
Nice. If this was my client, I would say, well, yes, you're destined to do this. Apart from all the other stuff about, looking after the kids and cleaning the house. But the destiny is there on that career and making that difference on the world. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So those are some interesting points there that we can circle back around to a little bit later as well. Mm-hmm. So I did prepare the dispository for, did we say her name? Her star's name?
This is amazing. Yeah, so if anyone out there is a Dune fan, and of course there must be several of you because
that's Dune.
Dune fan.
Dune. It's like tuna and tomato. Dune.
So she submitted... In case you're not familiar with our form, we have a form where you can submit your chosen alias because we don't want to necessarily out everybody who's texting us. And
we can't give personal information out.
If you want to give your real name, sure, but most people do not want to. And so she has submitted her name as Chani Atreides, which is amazing. So we'll just call her Chani, for short.
Yeah, so this is a character in Dune.
In Dune. Yeah.
Yes, honestly, when I was not familiar with this name, I had to Google it myself. Yeah. And then I read the whole story and the history of the Atreides. And I thought, okay.
My God, you've done more research than I have. I've seen the first movie and the original with Sting half naked, mostly naked, like 90% naked. I haven't seen the newest one yet.
No, I haven't. I as I say, I watched the ones where I remember this worm coming onto the sand, and I was out of the room when I saw that. But anyway, that's as far as I got. Yeah. But I know it's huge. So, so interesting that she chose this name. Yeah. And that has to surely have something to do with the character in this chart as well, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is totally. Yeah.
So the next thing I worked on when I'm doing interpretations for people is I always do the dispository because I love dispositories because you can see so much more about it. So it turns out that she actually has 2 trees, and this is interesting because our previous listener also had 2 trees.
I do as well.
Do you? We'll have a look into that in a moment. Yeah. So for Chani, she has 2 dispositor trees, and they are both mutual reception trees.
Nice.
So what this means, for those of you who don't know, is that we've got two planets in each other's sign. So the one tree has got Mercury in Libra, which is Venus's sign, and Venus is in Virgo, which is Mercury's sign. Right. So they are a mutual reception.
Interesting.
It's such a nice thing to have mutual reception because it brings connections between 2 planets that are not there by the aspects, and that's why we love them.
Yeah.
So that's the one tree. I'll go into detail in that in a moment. And then the second mutual reception tree, we've got Mars in Sagittarius, which is Jupiter's sign, and we've got Jupiter in Scorpio, which is Mars's sign. Wow. So they are both in each other's signs. So
it's like a wife-swapping planet.
I know.
Orgy going on. Wow.
So we've got these 2 dispositor trees, and I've got the diagram of it on the actual blog post. Yeah. And they're equally, I would say they have equal amount of energy within them.
That's amazing.
So the Mercury-Venus tree has a few more planets within it. It's got there's nothing below Mercury because the only thing that's in Mercury's signs is actually Venus. But Venus is in charge of Chiron, the sun, Saturn, the chart ruler, and the chart ruler and the Almutan and Pluto.
Yeah.
Powerful planets. And then below Saturn, we've actually got the moon in Capricorn. And then on the Mars-Jupiter side, we've got Eris just below Mars, which it always will be for everyone who's alive at the moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll still put it in.
Yeah.
And then below Jupiter, we've got Uranus and Neptune, because they were both in Sagittarius at the time.
Nice.
So there's two sides. This is what I want to say as well. This shows, I don't want to say two sides to the personality, but there are two sides to this person.
Yeah.
And she may present one side to you if you're this sort of in that group, and then she'll present the other side to you if you're in that side of her group.
That is interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
So on the one side, we've got the Mercury-Venus, which is chitter-chatter, socially anti-delightful.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we've got Mars, your gladiator, with Jupiter going for the
Empire building.
The Empire building side. And so this is what I would like to say, that when she engages this Mars-Jupiter side of her personality, this is where the Empire building is definitely going to come from.
That's super interesting.
Yeah. And what it shows is that although Mercury and Venus, which are social interactions and chit-chat and getting through life and being part of the tribe socially, that we have to be and say please and thank you and all those things, she uses that just to get through. But when she's going to be using her empire building, she's going to have to engage these other facets of her personality of Mars, which is the competitive streak, to go out there and, kill the lion or whatever they were doing. And the Jupiter in Scorpio, which is, I will get to the top. You're either with me or you're not. So there's this other side. And I think as we get older and develop maturity, she will move from this Venus, Mercury, oh, I'm going to be nice, mummy. Yeah. And she'll move on to this side and step into her own.
Nice. Yeah, well, that's amazing. And I mean, that's super interesting too, because I think a lot of people just, there's a tiny little section of, this what's the word? This test subject like realm that we have.
Yes.
It's a few people, but I feel like we have a lot of people who are born around the same, like the early 80s. We have a lot of people in their 40s, basically, and we're both a little older than that, but we're having a lot of people writing to us who are in this sort of...
This is our audience, yeah.
Yeah, and what is it?
Generally women over
the elder
40.
millennials? Is that what they're called?
Well, it's women who perhaps have done what they were told they were supposed to do, to be nice and be quiet.
And now they're like, wait a minute.
What about me?
What about me? Yeah. So I feel like a lot of people who've written to us have been in that generation.
Yes.
And this is really interesting because what we're being able to say is like, here's the essence of your chart. Here's how you can forge forward.
This is it.
Or like just confirming what they're already probably on the path of doing, hopefully.
Yeah.
And being like, yes, go girl, you're doing it right.
Go for it, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is built into her chart there.
Yeah.
So I've given a little bit of further breakdown there about the actual dispository and how it actually works. There's some further links if you want to go deeper into dispositories. But yeah. So we've just gone through the main strokes about where you would go with pulling the information for an interpretation with a specific question.
Yeah.
But as I was working with this chart, there are many other features in here that we can't go into it in great detail at this point. But the point is that this is a chart of someone, because she has the North Node there in the 7th house. I believe she needs to take others with her. Although she wants to independently go forward and create something magical in the world, and the tendency may be to say, I'll do it by myself if you're not with me. Yeah. She would do better to hook into either a closer friend, a business partner, or someone who can walk the path with her as she does what it is she's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
This is not a chart of someone who can necessarily do it independently, because that North Node is there and it's in 7, which is, your partnerships and business and the common people. So her destiny will be to want to, what's that saying? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, take a friend.
Right.
And this is what I would recommend to her, that she would do well to find out who is representing that North Node in her 7th house as someone to take forward with it. And it doesn't have to be someone necessarily a business partner, but it might be someone who is a guru, or someone she bounces her ideas off, or someone who not necessarily a mentor, but someone who understands the struggle and can support her there.
Yeah.
This is also suggested because the vertex, which we've never spoken about yet, is also in the 7th house. And this is where generally people come and go in your life, and you want someone to come into your life, 7th house, at that vertex point.
Yeah. It's interesting that there's no planets in the 7th house, but there's these 2 incredibly important mathematical points.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily talking about partnership. It's not necessarily talking about romance, marriage, all that stuff you normally would expect to see in the 7th house. But it's talking about partnership. It's talking about what you need in order to be successful, that support structure.
That's right.
Yeah. Interesting.
And if we take it one step further, when we look at this fabulous Mars-Uranus conjunction in the 11th house.
Yeah. In Sagittarius. It's so powerful, so adventurous.
And this is an indication that, well, the normal keyword is friends, but people you associate with, your community, your audience, you need to be paying attention to them as well and being present.
Yeah.
You need to have a pulse when you're dealing with these people. Mars is there and Uranus. And it may not always go easily, but the point is that she is going to be better off saying, hey, I'm going to be doing this. This is my journey I'm on.
Yeah.
And
not just saying it, but listening for the response, because there will be people going, oh, hey, me too.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And even though she may be able to, I want to say, make friends with people who are on a similar journey of finding their true purpose rather than necessarily this world domination thing.
Yeah.
But it's about what we just said about, you get to a point and you say, what about me? Yeah. What am I supposed to be doing? I have these other urges and needs that I want to put forward.
Yeah.
And I do see that through that Mars-Uranus conjunction too.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are a lot of people who, want to do something important in life, want to change the world. There's not a lot of people who want to lead that charge.
Yeah.
And this is someone who wants to lead that charge. Mm-hmm. But in that community, there are a lot of people who are going to want to follow someone who can lead.
Yeah.
So
what I would recommend for this person, for this woman, is to find your tribe, find your people, and listen, but don't necessarily do everything they're suggesting.
Right.
But you can't do this alone, because that's what your chart is saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what's his name? Teddy Roosevelt, my favorite U.S. president, before Obama, whatever, my favorite U.S. president. And
you've got a favorite U.S. president?
Come on. I grew up there. You can't not have one. I mean, he might not be as affable as like JFK, but hey, look at him when he was young. He was a hottie. Anyway, Teddy Roosevelt, he said famously, "Follow me." It's not you go there, do this. Like a general is not going to be like ordering people. It's follow me, and she's the follow me.
Yeah. This is it.
Yeah.
Now, it's not necessarily always going to be easy. We've got this Sun and Venus in the 8th house, so there may be some fears behind what it's doing. They may be private as well. And also the Neptune in the 12th house is always an indication that the darkest hour is most before dawn, that fears that will come in that may derail you need to be looked at in the light of day. Don't take a one moment or one situation or one sudden feeling or an encounter and say, oh, this is not for me, and throw in the towel.
Interesting.
This has to be looked at in the light of day, and that can be done through these people who you're going to surround yourself with, who can hold up the mirror for you.
Yeah. So it's like if you've been burned before, don't paint everybody in that light. It's
Or your fears about, can I do this? Should I do this? What would Steve Jobs say, or whoever you care about? What would my mother think? What did the kids think, and so on?
You can do it.
But that Neptune there, it shows that there will be these thoughts going through their mind, and the darkest hours before dawn. So always remember that, and don't make decisions in the night and say, oh, let me send that email because I'm feeling what the hell, sending it off. Don't do that. Wait until the light of day and pay closer attention to what you're doing.
Yes, super interesting. That makes sense. Yeah.
So going back to Chani's original question, which was, will I succeed in building a profitable business empire?
Yeah.
My answer is yes. How do you feel, Arwynne?
Yeah, from an astrological standpoint, it sure looks like it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
There's no reason why not. I mean, this chart.
This chart is very dynamic for that position. And the fact that she even proposed this particular question, it's coming from the chart. It's always so interesting.
It's not like, will I meet the one and will I have my business? No, screw that. Will I? Yeah.
Yeah. So, the focus is clearly there. It's an underlying focus. And that was her burning question, which is what we've strived to answer. Is it stroven or strived? I don't know.
Or striven.
Striven, maybe that too. We have tried to answer that. And honestly, I would want to say that the answer is generally a yes here. Yeah. It's a matter of bringing some focus to be confident with where you're going. I would say, bring forth a plan. Saturn is your almutin, it's your strongest planet, and Saturn likes a timeline. It likes lists and
there's
checklists
just so much
and
structure
whatnot.
In this. There's all this Capricorn. There's all of this. There's all this Libra. There's all this Virgo. It's a very organized, very systematic, very
Yes.
I dare say kind of it can be cutthroat, but in a beautiful way, because there's all that Libra. There's a lot of beauty in this chart as well, but it's very structured beauty, which is wonderful. The world needs more structured beauty.
Well, this is it. What they say about Libra, they can send you to hell and you look forward to the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So trip planning, those hell tourism, hell tourism.
Yeah, so I feel very positive about this. I like the fact that her question aligned with the chart. Yeah. So we're very pleased with that. It's not as though it's just so weird we can't even make connections here. We definitely can.
Yeah.
And that would be my answer to her main question.
Yeah.
I would just say to her that I would say make a plan. I would say to make a 12-year plan and maybe a 2-year plan. And not a 12-year plan, a 12-month plan or a 2-year plan.
God, I'm glad you're not saying that to me. I feel like, what? No.
Yes. Make some lists, get yourself organized. I would say get a journal, but that's me.
Yeah.
And go back over all your bits and bobs. The fact that Mercury's retrograde there, double check all the paperwork, whatever you sign, no matter what it is, and you're going to be fine. And I think it's a great chart. I think it's a chart of someone who could make a difference if she actually applied herself. So,
there you go.
There it is. So, Arwynne, are we good there?
I think so. Thank you, Chani. This has been really super interesting.
Okay, so to our listeners, if you have found value in this episode, please consider sharing it with somebody else who may be interested. If you have any questions, you can always email us at starzology@gmail.com and visit our website at starzology.com.
Yes.
If you would be interested in an online reading, we are running way behind now. We're like 7 months behind. There are so many people who've applied, but we will get to you.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to have a couple of your questions answered when we look at your chart, that's what we're offering there too.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you to Chani for actually letting us use her chart, for agreeing to let us interpret her chart. We don't know who she is, and we'll love to hear your feedback, Chani, and we've answered your question there.
Yeah, and let us know when you do build that empire. How are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, Arwynne, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, listeners, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks so much for getting this far through the episode. I just want to take a moment to tell you about the two main options of my astrology services. So the first one is coaching. If you are an aspiring astrologer, and by that I mean someone who's perhaps a hobbyist astrologer or someone who's learning astrology or a student, or you've got a few books and you've been doing it for a while, but perhaps you need a little bit of help to bring it all together, then maybe getting some astrological coaching from me would be the answer for you. The astrology coaching I offer is a 1-hour session on Zoom, and it's tailored to answer your particular questions. For example, if you have issues with natal chart readings, we can go there. Or if you're having problems working with your forecasting, we can go there. Or even basic astrology stuff, or even getting yourself organized for your astrology business. The idea is that astrological coaching will answer your particular questions. It's tailored specifically to you and where you are in your astrological journey. And I'm happy to help you out with some guidance about how you can get going, what to focus on, and what to dismiss. So that would be the astrological coaching for people trying to learn astrology. The second astrological service I offer is consultations. So this is for someone who perhaps doesn't know anything about astrology, but they just want to have their chart read or get their chart done. Call it what you will. So once more, this is a 1-hour consultation over Zoom. I will interpret your chart, tell you about the main features, tell you about where the energy is flowing, and all the rest of what is entailed in a thorough natal chart interpretation. I can also add in some forecasting in there too, bearing in mind we only have 1 hour. So just in summary, I've got coaching for people who want to learn astrology, and I've got consultations for those who want to get an astrology reading done. I'm Alison Price from Starzology.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.